Hello there mateys and welcome back to another video here in Windrose, and today I've built this clock tower to have a nice addition here to my town behind my market square. And today of course I'll show you around the build, the interior, and then afterwards I'll show you exactly how to build this one for yourselves if you're looking to add a nice, well, more Spanish style building, I suppose. That's I guess what these build sets are called, and I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. Hopefully you guys like it as well, and as always of course, if you enjoy seeing these types of videos and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd really like to see down in the comments below. So let's take a quick look around over here. So this is the full build. Actually I probably want to back up a little bit further so that we can see the entirety of the tower up there. As I will show in the build itself, for now we kind of have some hunting thing on the wall, which is circular, so it's the most clock-like. But if you play around a little bit with some pillars and beams, you can definitely get some like something that looks a little bit more like an actual clock if you would want that. Hopefully they'll add a clock at some point. That would be quite nice to get on the wall like that, but at least it's a nice little tower that sticks out. It matches quite well with the little shop we built earlier on. And yeah, I did change the pillars from the top of the tower to the mahogany wood pillars. I think that looks a bit better contrast wise, and other than that I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. I did a little bit of decorating around. We got some little garden pots out here, just some farm plots with some flack and some flower pots in there. Same over here, just to add a bit more character and detail to it all. And of course it looks absolutely beautiful with all of those balconies etc sticking out, adding a lot of character and depth. And of course for me, with the little marketplace in front of it, it really adds a lot of life to this little square now. It feels a whole lot more like a completed area. Definitely need some houses or a little street going off that direction, but for now definitely looking a lot nicer. So let's take a quick look inside before I show you exactly how to build this one yourself. So we have this little table on this carpet welcoming us in, a nice ship bobbing around in there. Then we have the office over here with a nice desk, some paintings on the wall, and just a nice and cozy bit of a room. Now we do have the globe here. Maybe I should add another light back there. But on the other side we have a cozy little kitchen. So this pathway I decided to block off. I still need to have the some like cupboards or a store cabinet in here, but I felt like that made a little bit more sense decoration wise on the inside here. Yeah, we have a cozy little kitchen area, bunch of like food prep going on, and I think it looks quite cozy. And then of course we've got our stairs to go up to the next layer of the build, where we have the beautiful balcony to take a look out into the town. We have the dining room where dinner is served, so you can sit down and have a nice bite to eat, and of course access to all of these lovely balconies at the same time, which is quite cool. We have a painting up here too. And then here we can follow this little hallway to lead us to the bedroom over here. So yeah, all in all, quite a cozy little build, decent amount of space. And if you really wanted to, I suppose you could probably find a way to build a staircase further up. I really hope they do add ladders at some point. That would be a lifesaver to save a bunch of space on your interiors. But yeah, there we go. That is my clock tower build. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you do, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and definitely feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. With that being said, let's jump into how to build this one for yourself. So we're going to start out by building the foundations again, of course, and in this case I'm going to start here with this singular one, which is going to be the middle of the build. And you can see I added some stairs just because of course I'm connecting it to my private town, but well, you can just start with the foundation itself. We're gonna make this foundation, if it lets me snap to the right spots and not everything around it. Hello, please. There we go. So that's the one. And then I want another one right next to it. So yeah, I want to make that 3 wide and then come back by another 3. So which means that's just 4 long in total. And we're going to just fill that in completely. So basically it's a 3 wide shape and it goes 4 deep here. And then on both sides, I actually want to go out by 3 more here at the back. So we're going to do the exact same thing here over the other side. In my case, I'm going slightly into this landscape, but that's just for my build. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily, but it's just making it all fit in. And I think it's going to work out fine. So this is going to be the size of the build. So it's a decent sized building, nothing too major. It's just mostly a nice little extra townhouse in your pirate town projects, or if you just want to use this as a base, should give you a decent amount of space to utilize. You definitely want to have a staircase here in the front. We might even make it a little bit wider, because technically I guess we could still kind of add this to the sides. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like we could definitely do that without worrying about it too much. I feel like this would work. So let's see what we want to do then to fill in the sides. I think working with these blocks would work pretty well, at least for those bits. And yes, even those we can fill in almost all of it without it getting some weird textures. So we're gonna do the same thing over here on this side and just try to get the snap points. It's a little bit more difficult for me because of all the extra things I've added here, but that should give us a decent start. And then yeah, none of these really have the same kind of texture, but I think now if I would use these, yeah, it sticks out a little bit, which is a little bit annoying in my opinion. Is there still a little gap in there? I mean, I guess it's not too bad because I can't really see anything. So maybe that's all we need to add for now. There is definitely a little gap there, but I don't think it's very noticeable. So I think we'll get away with that for now. Let's see. What we want to use is, of course, a nice proper entrance. And I think I might want to try and use one of these. I think that could be quite cool. So can I add it in the middle though? That is the question. What kind of entrance is this even? Like, how wide is this entrance? Some of these are like awkward sizes where it's not really equal on both sides of the build. Oh, this one might work. That seems to leave an equally sized gap on both sides, which is always nice. And we'll get a nice big entrance into the building. And I think judging by what's above it, that means we'll be building out of the plaster material. Make this work. Let's at least just raise this up to the height of the entrance here, which will yeah, kind of frame out that door a little bit nicer. But I think that's a pretty decent start for the build. I actually also want to take these and add 2 of them here on the bottom in the middle of these sections, and I think we can probably do the same at the back of the building. I guess over here it's going to be slightly in my landscape for me, but you know, you get the drill. And I think then what we want to do is take out these walls, probably about 3 high for all of these sections, and then we'll be able to, you know, get some nice windows in there. For now I'll just add a temporary one. It doesn't, oh yeah, it lets me snap that one in there. Of course we just want to make normal walls. It will be a lot easier if it's not slipping into any terrain, but yeah, that gives us a nice frame for our windows. And I think I think I want to go for these ones. Okay, so if I'm correct, they should be this way around to open to the outside. There we go. That's perfect. So we'll flip them around here for the back so that we can also open them here and enjoy some beautiful windows there. And then I guess we probably want to finish the shape up here, so we'll have these going up as well. And technically this front bit is going to be tower 3x3, so we kind of have to figure out a way to make that work on the inside. But first, let's also add in some windows at the end of the building, as well as we can actually fill in the tops here now, so that we have no gaps. We can also do that all the way across the front there, so it's all the same height. And then of course we can also bring up some walls at the corners here, over there, just so that we get a decent shape going in here. And then of course we can do the tops just like that, and then we can add the windows in there. We're going to use these windows so they won't open up, but they'll give us some nice stained glass windows with the same pattern at the top, which I think is nice. So it still blends together, but they don't have to all open up like this, I think. And I think here at the back it might be nice if we just have one of the walls in the middle and then maybe add 2 more windows just to change it up from the front a little bit. And then I think we might go for those without. So we have the open windows at the corners and the normal windows in the middle. I think that might be a pretty nice way to go. And then I think what I want to do here is kind of just fill in this wall, so we can at least use that wall to maybe build like the staircase against, because we'll have to get up to the next layer somehow. We might do the same over here, because then we can kind of just have a doorway here in the middle, which might be quite nice. In fact, I think what we might want to do is bring up these by 4, just like so. Then we can have the top layer just be normal ones, and then if we go to the doorways and we go to those arches, I think that makes for a pretty nice like entrance into the separate rooms that we then create. That is pretty nice. And I think here on the inside we might want to use a little bit of the mahogany beams, just to get a little bit of the wood textures in there. And I think for the next floor, I don't know if they'll have a next floor, but maybe something like that. But let's see if we have a next floor. There we go. We can just kind of ramp up those pillars all the way. Unfortunately, I don't really think there's a proper way to make those things connect to the ground, which is quite unfortunate. It would be nice to be able to continue those door frames, because we have them for like the bottom, but it would be nice to also have them against the wall so you can kind of continue that all. But we definitely want to add these across the bottom edge wherever it sticks out, because I think that just looks a little bit cleaner if you do that. So I would definitely recommend going around the outside here and just giving that a good go, so that, well, yeah, you get that little extra bit of detail going around. There we go. And I think just maybe for a little bit of color difference, I'm actually going to use the stone pillars instead of the plaster ones, because otherwise it's all a bit too much of the same texture. But I think it is nice to have a few of these kind of like pillars that look like they're keeping like the building up and everything. There we go. that's a pretty good start here. Looking quite nice, if I say so myself. And I know for sure that I want to make another layer on top of this. So I think the only way to properly do that is to make sure that we have these going across the top of the layers again before we add another layer, I think. Because again, it just adds a little bit of depth to the building if we have this. So we're gonna make sure that these go all the way across to the other side as far as we can for now. Oh, that's a bit too far even. And we can do them on this side too. Seems like I went far enough on that end already. Yeah, we kind of have circled it around every outside layer. And then we'll have some room to work on the next layer of the building. Now the question is, do we fit in a staircase on this layer of the building or somehow inside? Because it's going to be quite narrow. It's going to be quite tricky actually getting a staircase up. It would be so nice if we had like ladders that we could climb. I think actually for the staircase it's going to be easier if we change this up a little bit. So it's going to be similar to what we have, but I think we might be better off having a full wall here and instead creating some entrances to the sides right over here. Although I guess we can't really do that the same way we had because of the outside. So I suppose that those need to stay in place. And then we could have some entrances into the side rooms like this so you could still get there. And I guess then for consistency purposes it might be good to also have our pillars in those corners. There we go. Okay, and I think the best way to add in the stairs probably is going to try and center them to the room. So what I do is I go around the edges here with these small floor pieces, the mahogany ones, just so that we have a smaller shape in here which is centered to the tower. Okay, I think then what we do is have a full ceiling there. And then we're actually going to move this around just a tiny bit, because I think if we center the staircase, it might be too narrow with the doorway. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it here. Then we're going to take out the staircase here. Then we're going to start bringing this down, circling it all the way around. Needs to snap to the right place there. Come on. There we go. And then the final bit right over here, because now we can still easily access both of those arches. You could, of course, remove one arch if you just want to walk, because you have the hallway behind it. But yeah, this staircase should bring us up here. But then, of course, here at the top, you might want to adjust that a little bit. And texture-wise, maybe we want to swap those around, actually. Because I think if we do this one, this lines up a little bit nicer. And then we can fill that in, of course. Probably makes the most sense to have some railings around those parts. Then, well, for the other rooms, I guess the easiest way is just to kind of fill these all in. There we go. That's a pretty decent floor to get. I don't know if I want to have that one here, so probably have to make some kind of stair or a fence around this staircase. There we go. Take out those. Just like that. And then some of those in there. Yeah, that's pretty decent. At least that will get us up and down quite easily. Then for this layer, what I think we want to do is basically raise these up by 4. I think that's what I want to do, and probably want to do the same thing over here. Kind of just keep that all the same. And I'll do the same at the back for now. Kind of just keeping that all even. And so I want to do that. And I think here in the middle, what we're actually going to do is raise those up by 3 high. Have those middle bits in, and then we can just easily add in a nice window there. I think that's what we want. And then we can take out those walls again. Get those going around here. There we go. We can just kind of shape up the rest of this layer. Bit narrow there. I guess you can't really fit through there, but that's fine. You can fit around this side. I guess we probably just want to have some windows at these ends too. I guess we could have some smaller windows. Maybe that might be a nice touch. So if we add a shape like this on both sides, I think that might be the solution. And then we can take out the normal walls, fill in the rest there, fill in the rest over here too. And then I guess what we want to do is just add our windows. Oh, these are a little bit taller than I imagined. Good at these ones. Just some nice smaller windows. Pretty nice. And then I think what I want to do for the rest of those is make some balconies. So I'm just going to have some arches. So it's almost like an open door design. There we go, because I don't really think we have a door of this size that would fit this gap perfectly, because that would be nice, but they're all like slightly weird sizes for some reason. Some of them kind of fit that vibe. I guess we could have gone for one of these, but again, these are all kind of like weird sizes, like different sizes. So I think these angles are going to be the best ones. And then we'll make some nice balconies. Something like this. That would be a balcony there. I guess we could have another one right over here. Over there. And over here. The patterns are a bit strange. I feel like I guess I could. You have to pay a lot of attention, I guess, to the way you start placing them, because otherwise they will look quite random. So I guess, oh, see, it changed again. So that, I guess it doesn't matter, because even if I rotate it to be the right one, it places it the same way anyway. So I guess it's just based on the location somehow. No, because that now is even different as well. That's so weird. Okay, so this would be the preferred one, but see, it didn't do... I mean, I guess that's fine. At least that feels a bit less random, maybe. Still a bit weird. Don't really know what the logic behind it is. Oh yeah, this one is different again. This one is kind of normal. I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's a way, but I guess it's fine. And I think here I want to make a slightly more like rounded one, so I guess it's not going to be a perfectly rounded one, but a different shape at least. Because then we can just add our railings. I'm going to have to add these nice angles, but that's pretty nice, right? And then we just add those in the corners, and then we have a beautiful little balcony sticking out over there. Let's just add these. I guess I don't even need them on these corners because I can just use the corner pieces, right? All right. Let's take out the corner pieces. I can turn these back to 90 degrees because that's just going to save me a bunch of rotating. And that way we can have some lovely balconies all around us. We want all the balconies for this build. This is quite a fancy place. There we go. So now we have all of those little balconies. We can take a look at what that looks like from the outside here. I think that looks quite nice. And of course, if we want to, we could probably even give them some nice support. I don't know. This might be better. I'm gonna have to use the different angles for these, of course. There we go. Just to kind of support them a bit more, I suppose. Awesome. And then just the two around the back. We'll do the same thing again. Oh, I missed the railing there. Make sure we don't forget about that one. There we go. I think that looks quite nice. But maybe something like this. Oh, I didn't even really want to add them everywhere, but I guess you could do that. It does look quite nice. Just adds a little bit extra details. There we go. We can do them all around the back of the build. And then we can do the same over there. That's quite nice. I'm not entirely sure. I guess we can just do it like this on the front there. There we go. I mean, at least from down here, that looks quite nice, those supports. I hope they don't poke through, because some of them seem to just kind of poke through the floors, but it doesn't seem to be the case here. So that's quite nice, because that gives us some lovely balconies to take a proper look at the surroundings and the little town that we've been working on, which is definitely a nice touch, I think. Okay, for the inside, I guess we kind of need to shape up where the actual tower is going to be, because, well, we have this spot, which should be a 3x3 one. But of course, you'd want to have, well, some kind of entrance up here, and then I guess this one we actually don't need these railings, because we probably just want to fill in that entire wall. That's probably the easiest way to go about it. So then we'll just have to adjust those stairs a little bit. And then over here, could just have one of these, I suppose. Or maybe we just do the same thing as before. We kind of have nice arch. Feel like here already I want to keep using those beams. There we go. Some nice corners to these towers. Yeah, that gives us access to all of the different rooms still. Looks quite nice. And then I think it's time to add the roof on the, well, the normal part of the building before we start adding the actual tower in the middle. And I think we're going to use these ones. So they will stick out a little bit. And we should have a nice corner piece possible there. So I just want to have the whole roof go around the corner. Or do we have a roof ship? I kind of like the idea of it going around the corner like this, I think. I think that could be quite nice. But yeah, there we go. We can continue this a little bit. We can have those. And of course, the next corner here. At the back, I guess we can have them go all the way through. There's no tower interrupting here. There we go. Then we continue the roof again, except for the last one. And then finally, the last few. I feel like that's a pretty decent size. I guess those corner pieces are up next. There we go. And then we should be able to add in normal roofs. See if we can get all the way to the top there. We might not be able to do that. There we go. I guess we could just finish the roof like that. Like just slightly different. Otherwise, there's going to be like a balcony on the top. I don't think we need that necessarily. Let's see. Is there even a wall for that shape? There we go. Well, I guess it kind of snaps in there. I guess we then use that little roof piece to make that stand out a little bit less. I mean, it does add some interest to the roof, I suppose. And then we'll have the tower stick out in the middle, so that's fine. Okay, I think the roof is looking pretty good now. What we do need to do is raise up these pillars more, but probably easier to do that from the inside. It's gonna be a bit dark early in the day. Definitely need to add some lights on the insides, but we do want to raise up the pillars in the corner of the, well, the actual building, not just the tower. There we go. Yeah, that should look pretty nice like this. And I think what I then want to do is around the, well, the current top layer of the tower, wherever it's visible, I think we want to add in that little edge. Maybe even on the inside actually, because the I might go for a different material for the top of the tower, just to kind of set it apart a bit more. There we go. Now, I think the tower is mostly going to be decorational because, well, we've seen how much space a staircase takes. I guess you could have a smaller one around the corners, but it would look quite funky. So unless you really want to get up there, I don't think we need to. All right, so I've made myself some scaffolding, and I think it's time to raise up the final layer of the tower here. And I think if we start from this corner and maybe go up, how much? Like this, maybe? Maybe that's enough. So I'm using different pillars for this top layer. We're going from the stone pillars to the plaster pillars, and then I think we're going to go from the plaster walls to something different. There we go. So that seems pretty nice. And I think I'm going to go down for the limestone walls. Maybe I should raise it up like this. That might be better size. I mean, I feel like don't have to make it more difficult than it is, right? Like using the normal walls makes a little bit more sense, I think. We'll just have to raise up the pillars by one. Oh, although I did have a window on both sides here, I think. Kind of unfortunate that they have that little bit above it, but I feel like we can get away with that. Maybe if I do that just above the window, kind of hides the fact that technically there's a little bit of gray on the outside there. I think that kind of works. And it adds a little bit of nice details there too. All right, let's take out those pillars and raise them up to the right height now for all of these walls. There we go. So there's no real block we can use. There's a, like, if you get pretty far into the game, you could get this one, but that's for inside, of course. But I thought maybe, just maybe, we can get away with using this as our clock. Kind of. Let's see if we can maybe make a little bit of a frame for it. Let's see. So maybe having it centered is a bit nicer. So if we do this, I mean, that feels like the right place. There we go. Right about there. So that's my clock. I guess you could make something custom with pillars, etc. as well. I feel like, you know, that kind of works. Saves a lot of time not having to go around and try to freehand a clock. You could even use this as a basic size, I suppose, and then if you take out like pillars and then you turn off snapping, like you could probably get like something there, because I mean technically, just as an example of what you could do, I don't know if it will look very good. Like this could be a hand of the clock, and then I guess that could be another one. So you could definitely turn it into a clock like this. Not half bad, actually. Like, it's not bad. I think I'm gonna go for this one though. Yeah, if you wanna actually make it look like a clock, I suppose you could go for that one. Okay, as for the roof, I think once again we're just gonna use these pieces to kind of extend the corners. And then just build a nice little roof on top. So then we can have this side. This already adds a ton of details because they kind of have to have very nice supports around the bottom. Do the same thing over here. There we go. And then I think if we just bring up the rest of the roofs, we're gonna have the same problem again, aren't we? Because they don't have any smaller pieces. It would be lovely if they had some kind of tower piece. I guess we can use it to our advantage. We're gonna say that this was a feature. We're gonna have some beams around here. There we go. That looks pretty nice. I guess we could almost make it look like this is like some kind of little clock tower. I don't know if there's anything like a clock we could use, but okay. And I think to make this work, I'm gonna have temporary piece there, because I don't think we can use those small pieces around the edge now. And I want this one. That's the snap I need. And I think if I do this, that should give me the full roof for this part. There we go. And then I guess, well, the main thing would be, like, can we even get some kind of, like, clock tower feeling bit in here? Guess we can't really have something coming from the top there. That's a shame. But maybe we can work around that. We add in those beams, and then we can have some cross beams like that. But is there anything we could get away with for a bell? I mean, I guess worst case, you just have a lantern there. I guess none of that's going to snap to the bottom of it, is it? I guess you could have the... Oh, you can't even have the cage hanging there. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much, but to be fair, that's not half bad. That's pretty nice. And I think it makes for some pretty nice building. I mean, look at that. That's a pretty nice building in my eyes. I think the pillars for the tower, I probably would continue the same color all the way up. I don't mind the material changing much, but the pillars themselves, maybe we change those. Well, I like the tower on there. Adds quite a nice tall tower. and more on these the Spanish architecture, which is a nice contrast with the rest of the town. I built it next to the shop so they kind of match each other. Yeah, I quite like that. Adds a little depth to our town. There we go. I love the little balconies as well. And once we add a bunch of decorations, etc., you could make quite a cozy place out of this. Add some nice flowers, etc., on these balconies. Some drinking opportunities. Some nice views of the town from all the different angles that we've built so far. I think it's quite a nice building. Yeah, you could definitely build up to these different layers if you wanted to, but I think, yeah, you still have a decent amount of space without going all the way up. Yeah, as I said, I will probably change the top pillars so that they just continue all the way through, or maybe change them to wood. Actually, maybe changing them to wood on the corners might be the way to go. But other than that, I think that's going to be it for the build video. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I think the proper tour of the whole place will be at the start of the video. So that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your suggestions for whatever other Windrose builds you'd really like to see down in the comments below, because I want to keep building, but I do need some more suggestions. Could be just shops you would like to see me build, add more buildings and more houses in the town. Could be specific buildings. I like the idea of building like a little farm with a windmill maybe somewhere. That could be a really cool project. Maybe somewhere over there, maybe a proper Spanish villa somewhere, because we're getting in that kind of architecture, but on smaller scale. So maybe having a slightly bigger villa somewhere would be really cool too, but I don't know if I have the right spot for that in this town at least. But this kind of helps closing out this loop that I've been working on, and it adds some more life to the market square with a proper build right at the back. So yeah, there we go. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Goodbye.